Hello everyone, greetings from Spain. My presentation is entitled Reality Television, Persuasion and Interpersonal Relations, Influencing People's Behavior. Let me just start by saying a few words about persuasion, reality television and business discourse. So the aim of this study is just to analyze the way or the ways in which American and Spanish business experts gain compliance by paying attention to turn-taking strategies and the social influence tactics they use. And in understanding persuasion as an analytical tool, what I tried to do then was just to throw light on how persuasion is enacted in reality television. For that purpose, I used the TV program Shark Tank, the American program, but also the Spanish counterpart. So all in all, I intended just to throw light on televised entrepreneurial business discourse. In particular, I use both a quantitative and a qualitative method to examine in detail the persuasive strategies a panel of American business experts use on the one hand, and the strategies a panel of Spanish business experts use on the other, and how they reach an agreement with their interlocutors. In order to do so, I explore the turn-taking system. I look at the turn structure as an attempt to measure the impact of a specific social influence tactics on entrepreneurs' decisions and actions leading to agreement. And on the other, I also pay attention to try to answer some basic questions about what communicative persuasive actions business experts perform. That is, how these business experts persuade entrepreneurs just to comply to their request as a condition to invest and become partners. Of course, Shark Tank, this TV program, this reality television program I've used, does not represent a window into the world of the American and Spanish cultures, but for sure the differences are deliberate directional decisions designed to appeal to the audience. As for the method, as for the data I've used, I collected and transcribed a total of 20 televised business speeches and negotiations. Let me just say that even though I transcribed the whole thing, I just analyzed the negotiations when the business experts were just negotiating with the entrepreneurs the final proposal. In order to provide a homogeneous sample, as you can see, the selection was made on two variables: gender and a similar business proposal. Then, as a result, I got almost 2,000 utterances from each set of data, and my main focus was just to capitalize, as I said, on how business persuasive practices are enacted for an audience on reality television by looking at the particular structures. So let's go then for the analysis of the social influence tactics. When dealing with the analysis, it was possible to see that within this televised entrepreneurial business discourse, American and Spanish business experts use different strategies for gaining compliance. More precisely, in both sets of data, they mainly exploit elicitations to agree with the entrepreneur. By the way, these elicitations are used may differ. Let me just delve into this. Let's see if I make myself understood. So in both cases, American and Spanish business experts in the negotiations use the foot in the door tactic. That is, as an attempt just to establish common ground between them and the entrepreneurs, and also just to promote social mutuality, just to be able to reach an agreement that apparently benefits both parties. Let me just give you an example, and then hopefully you will see what I'm trying to explain. This time the example is taken from the Spanish data. The conversation in Spanish, just for those that cannot read Spanish, translated at the end of the line. I translated into English, so you can follow the you can follow the presentation. You want to pause the viewing, perhaps you need a few minutes just to read the whole conversation. I decided not to read it, just to make this presentation too long. So having a look at this conversation, we see that this time Spanish business experts deploy the foot in the door tactic. What this means then, first the business expert gets the entrepreneur to agree to a small request. If we have a look at the conversation, first they used an illicit agree, so they want the entrepreneur to agree with a simple thing. I give you double amount of money, so you're asking for one, I'm going to give you two, that's all right, but you were saying 10%, I want a higher percentage. That's the foot in the door tactic. First, you just say something that the other person may say, yes, I agree, and that's why we get a responding out. And then the funny thing here is that we go a follow-up move where the business expert upgrades the agreement. That's going to be relevant in a minute. But that's not it. That's not the end of the tactic. So then the business expert makes explicit his real intentions. He asks for something bigger. So now it's not double amount of money, it's just triple amount of money, but in exchange for higher interest rates. That's what we call it, the foot in the door. So he puts their foot in the door, so the other person will not close it, just by giving double amount and then a higher percentage. Once the person says yes, then he really offers the real thing. And as a result, the entrepreneur also agrees. And once again, just to wrap up the conversation, a follow-up move, a third move, always given by the business expert, will just show appreciation. So the tactic is effective, and in the end, they make the deal. The question here then is, does the foot in the door tactic rely exclusively on the consistency principle? If we just read Petrova and colleagues' work, they just claim that for the strategy to be effective, for this foot in the door tactic to be effective, the second request should always be consistent with the previous request. As I said, at first double amount of money and higher interest rates, and then we just go triple amount of money and higher interest rates. So the request is consistent, or we can say that it's consistent. But after analyzing all the examples, then we see that that's not enough. Everything depends on the presence and the function of the follow-up move, or this third turn in the conversation, where the entrepreneurs try just to claim this common ground and just to pave the way for the conversation just to end up in good terms. So the follow-up moves appeal to the entrepreneurs' pathos by underlining the shark's engagement in taking responsibility for the entrepreneur's business, in such a way that when this third move doesn't show this engagement, then the tactic will fail, even though it is consistent. Let me just give you one more example. So if we have a look at this new conversation, then we see that in terms of the foot in the door tactic, we go a similar structural pattern, we go exactly the same as small request. All the requests generate compliant responses, but the foot in the door tactic fails. And as I said, that's mainly because the third move, the follow-up move, is just based on provocation. It's not based on pathos. It's not that we're just trying to show appreciation, but this time the third move, the follow-up move, is just appealing to ethos. So it's a common business strategy that in a way aims to challenge entrepreneurs to reconsider the business objectives. But in a systematic manner, in all the conversations that I analyzed, this strategy backfires as it establishes the business expert credibility to the detriment of the entrepreneur's self-image. Taking from the English example from Shark Tank, we just get the same thing. The strategy works, so we go a similar thing in terms of turn taking. We go the foot in the door tactic, but just to underline that this persuasive strategy does not rely exclusively on the consistency principle. Once again, this strategy becomes effective because the business expert uses follow-up moves just to appeal to pathos. And just by doing that, the expert contributes to construct an in-group entrepreneurial social identity. Apart from this persuasive strategy, then I was able just to identify one more strategy, but that was just present in the data in English in the American program. That's the presence of the door in the face tactic. Once again, it's just based on the idea to claim common ground with the entrepreneur, but just to negotiate the product. They always address a negative feature. So they always present a shortcoming of the business. Let me just give you an example, and then you'll see. Taken from the data in English. So we see how it works. So first, the shark, the business expert, precedes the presentation of the focal piece of information he wants the entrepreneur to agree with by a larger request that is bound to be refused. That's the door in the face tactic. So first you say something that you know for sure the other person is going to disagree with. And that's how it goes. So we got a positive evaluation. I think you're fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic. But then we just get the shortcoming. What you propose should be negotiated. The economic offer should be negotiated because there's something that I can't see. I can identify some sort of limitation. But as a result, then the business expert wants the entrepreneur to agree. But as a recurrent thing, instead of a response, of a positive response, we always get a challenging act. No, this is not good enough. When the person apparently was trying to sell them the product. And in a consistent manner, we get in these cases of the door in the face tactic, business experts, once again, using the follow-up move is always present in the conversation, but this follow-up move is always based on provocation. Then as a result, all the examples identified, this time almost 9 examples in there all along the negotiations, had the very same end. So in the end, the negotiation was not successful, just because the business expert is appealing to his own ethos and questioning the entrepreneur's professional objectives and business knowledge. So I think you're wrong, so you want to accept? No, I feel that it will not be correct. Fair enough, I'm out. So you got no knowledge about this business, so I'm out of it. One more example just for you to see that this is a recurrent thing in the conversations. We go similar strategy, starting with an enlisted agree. So we got this positive evaluation, but then we just the business expert asks for and demands double percentage. So I'm part of the business, but I want a bit more. As a result, once again, we just got this challenging act. I only offer 20%. So, and that's everything I'm just going to offer. And then we just get the follow-up just based on this provocation. You want me out then? You haven't managed to convince me or excite me. I'm very much doubt if it's going to be a big business, but I can make it work. Will you say no twice to £6,000 in exchange for 40%? So notice how this appeals to the shark's ethos again, and publicly denounces the entrepreneur's lack of knowledge or ability to make the right decisions. Let me just bring my presentation to an end. This presentation very briefly has delved into the social influence techniques used by a panel of American and Spanish experts, and this presentation has also highlighted the key structural patterns in exerting interpersonal influence. So there's an apparent preference for specific tactics for gaining compliance. In the case of the Spanish data, in the 10 different negotiations that I transcribed and I analyzed, the only persuasive strategy identified was the foot in the door tactic that is only successful whenever the follow-up move is based on engagement, when the business entrepreneur is just trying to appeal to pathos. However, as for the American data, I was able just to identify both examples, the door in the face tactic, the foot in the door tactic, And once again, we got the very same idea that the tactic for gaining core clients depends on the use of the follow-up move, on the presence of this follow-up move. When it's just appealing to pathos, the negotiation is successful. However, when the follow-up move is just based on provocation and he's just trying to show the other person that he doesn't know enough about his own or her own business, then in the end the negotiation is not successful. And that's the end of my presentation. Just a few implications that for sure are important out of this research. Just the direct implications for the under-researched field of entrepreneurial coaching and mentoring. This idea of using turn-taking when dealing with interpersonal influence may be really of relevance. That's the end of my presentation, and thank you for watching.